Thank you. Thank you, Jen. So today, really, what we're talking about is economic power and the thought that, and I think it's totally aligned with what Jen and Amoeba are doing, that economic power is worth much more when it's in your community. So the question at Mighty is, how do we keep that economic power in the community? And we feel that that's one way to do that is to provide an alternative to Amazon, um, and make it as easy as possible to shop online and yet support your local community. Um, so the whole idea is Mighty makes that easy. So let's, and I have notes off to the side that I'm want to make sure that I'm tracking. But I'm going to share my screen and just give you an example of what is going on at Mighty. Um, so can everybody see Mighty on screen? So at Mighty, we have about 70 stores right now connected to this one platform. So we can go in here and search for Birkenstocks, if I spelled it right. Um, and you can see there are a ton of Birkenstocks. If we click into one of these, you can see this is at Lenny's Shoes and Apparel, which is a store that's in Williston, Vermont. Um, and we can choose a size um, and put it in the cart. So the that connect part of what we've done that's fun is that we've built these connections so that we can connect to all different sorts of stores. The other the other way we can look is let's look at, it's funny, my view of all you all is blocking my store view, but we can go back here and hang on, let me drag you all out of the way. And if we can look by stores and I'm going to look, one of my favorites is new chocolate. Um, and so we could, this favorite around our house. So then I can shop just by that one store. And so we found the search is really good for big stores like Lenny's that might have thousands and thousands of items. A new chocolate has a couple dozen, so it's easier to go to their site. All of what you're seeing is coming from their site. So their descriptions, um, their alternatives. I'm going to be cheap today and just get the 6-piece package, add that to my cart. Um, so the other thing that we've done um, is now can you all see that I'm on the big A? And we built these extensions so people might go into an extension and I mean go into Amazon or some other site and type in running shoes for men. And we've built this extension that actually searches across Mighty to see if there are items that are on um, Mighty. So that's another way people can go in here and find this a running shoe. And I used running shoe, and maybe if I were more obscure, should have picked a more obscure item that people might not realize was in Vermont.
And
But
Bill, it looks like we're not seeing that. We're seeing Mighty's website.
oh no. Okay. I'll stop that share and share again. So we'll do this. Um, all right. How about that? Are you seeing Hoka men's? Yes? All right. So let me back up a step. Then what I did was I went into Amazon, um, and maybe we want to look, I'm going to look for something more obscure like a wallet. Um, and so what? Uh-oh, I shouldn't have picked something that I didn't. Sorry. All right, here's a wallet. So here's we can view on Mighty. US Sherpa has a Mountaineer wallet. And so those bugs, like, okay, we're searching for wallets for men, and that didn't come up. It's like, what the heck? But there's always something to work on. But if somebody searches for wallet, this is it checks the inventory on the Mighty um, across all the Mighty shops and gives people an alternative. And that works. Uh, we can go into whatever clothing, any 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 kind of e-commerce site. Why didn't it come up? Here's Viore. I have a 16-year-old who's excited about Viore, and we can go in here and look for a t-shirt. Um, and of course, if you search for, it says, oh, wow, they're dog t-shirts. But we can look, we can find shirts on, and here, the premise is to have people, when they're searching, know that there's an alternative so they can actually go in and then see what's available locally. Um, and then let's put this in the cart and we'll check out. Um, and I thought I was signed in, but we're going to check out with all these items all together. Um, and they'll all be delivered by in one package because we have a team that picks those up at the local shops and then delivers in one package to people's doorsteps. Um, and in doing that, we've reduced the amount of packaging and waste and all that kind of stuff. Um, Anybody have any questions about that before I go on? I see Barbara. I don't know, Jen, do you want to, because I can only see a handful of people. You're muted there,
There
Barbara.
it is.
Yep.
Found it. Um, does your store, right now we don't offer any, there's like our bookstore has very limited browsing. You can't really look at our inventory or anything, but we are going to be more involved in e-commerce as we go forward. So, but we really don't want to dive into delivery, like shipping. So if we don't offer shipping, would that still apply? Someone from Mighty would still be delivering?
Yeah, so we have a bookstore in Burlington called Phoenix Bookstore on Church Street,
Hmm.
and they're connected to Mighty. I think they have 21,000 books or something like that. And they actually now have a pretty robust e-commerce site. But when we started with them, they did not, and we actually have the capacity to upload a CSV file, if you know what that is. Basically a
Yeah.
listing that so we could have all of your books with a ISBN and images and title and description and all that stuff, prices. And then we have a way for you to upload all that. And then people can see that on Mighty and order and check out and have that delivered. Also, one of the things that we do is give just the delivery piece. So we have things set up so that either when somebody walks in the door and you say, "Oh, I'm going to get that book. It'll be in Friday," you can say, "Come back on Friday," or Mighty will deliver it. Um,
And I'm sure this is across the board for all retail. What happens if they buy a product that you actually just sold out of and don't have anymore?
well,
Um,
that's yeah. I mean that's definitely an issue all the time.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, and we can get way into the weeds, and I'm worried about doing that because I have lots of
Sure.
answers and we could talk for hours about it. But you get an email saying you have an order at Mighty, and then you then that gives you a link to open up your vendor portal, and you see the order. And when you see the order, you can accept it, saying yes, I have that book, and you might have three books. Often we get orders for multiple books, and you have the first one, you say yes. Second one, so you say yes. The third one, you say, oh, out of stock, or you can say delayed. It'll be in 2 weeks. Um, and that communicates to the customer.
Okay.
Um, and we're constantly innovating and trying to experiment with these different things to help see what the stores need and see what the customer needs and wants.
Yeah, thank you. That was
Yeah.
all my question.
So, and we will have a bunch of questions at the end. So, is there somebody else that has a question about like the mechanics of how it works? I saw stuff in the chat, but Jen, I'm going to let you monitor the chat and I'm not going to because I can't
Sounds
do.
good.
Okay. Well, since you've taken a pause here, this is Della Rucker. The so in you know, I understand how you're working things with the example previously. Um, when you have a business that does have a point of sale system, um, I are you you're integrating with those, I assume, without getting too deep in the weeds, can you talk a little bit about that? Because, there's commonalities across the various point of sale systems, but they're also everyone's got their own different flavor to it.
That that's the crux of our technical challenge. Because what the consumer expects is a uniform when they search and they're searching and seeing um, they're seeing running shoes, and we have a running shoe from one store and running shoe from another store that wants to have some uniformity. And so a photo and a description and a title and as you said, everybody uh, organizes that differently, and many e-commerce sites and point of sale operate differently. So a lot of what we do is called mapping. How do we map what you want to how our system works? I don't know. And again, I'm afraid to get into too technical details. I'm happy to with anybody, but it would be makes this much longer and we have a short period of time. Does that help you, Della?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yep. Um, I mean, one thing I wanted to make sure that we just touched on kind of why is this important now? And what we're seeing is that billionaires all want power, or they want all the power. And Bezos, in particular, Amazon is using Amazon to gain power, and money and power are being sucked out of our communities, and money is being sucked out, and with that, economic power. And and at this time, people are feeling pretty powerless. They feel disconnected, and they want to be part of something. So we feel like Mighty is almost an act of resistance to that move towards centralized power. And we want to, we believe in expanding local economic power and um, and feel that what we're doing is building the infrastructure that can allow communities everywhere to have local economic power. Um, and so decentralization is kind of core to how our platform is built. We're using technology, which is amazing today, but we're using it in a way that decentralizes power rather than centralizing power. Um, so this
Barbara, do you
way,
have a clarifying question?
yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but
No.
um, can you dive into, and I hope this isn't into the weeds, but are you using the AWS system, or I don't even know what that is, but the Amazon Web Services to actually, because that's where he is the ruler of the world.
Right.
um, so is there a way to resist against that, or is that just the only platform there is?
Well, and there's a lot of weeds there, but
Sorry.
no, that's a really good question. And that is the moral dilemma that we struggle with on a regular basis. Because part of what we're doing, we can't build, we're not economically strong enough to build everything from scratch. So one of the decisions we made years ago was um, what service provider to use. And we started with something called DigitalOcean, which was more in line with our values. And we found we just didn't have the bandwidth to manage all the things that go into managing a web service. Um, so I think Supabase is where our database is, which is probably where most of the action is. And I'm drawing a blank now because I can't remember where Supabase is based, but it could very well be Amazon Web Services. But there's this moral dilemma. It's like if we're going to succeed at this, if we're going to really do something that's vital and big, we have to use systems that are available to us now. And because right now it's about survival. It's about bringing back economic power locally. And as we grow and as people are more and more interested in what we're doing and we get funding, then we can look at taking on those other bigger challenges. So incredible moral dilemma. Anything along that line from anybody else?
Adam, you had your hand up. Oh, you're muted though. There you
Hi,
are.
I'm Adam Haber. Sorry, I came a little
Hey,
late.
Adam.
Bill's, I'm a big fan of Bill's. We have similar models. I'm in New York and California. I do think there's power in numbers and partnering in some way. We have a really good last mile delivery network that only gets profitable at scale. But there really is nobody else in America other than the two of us doing what we're doing, and it's a big country, and there's a huge opportunity. It's just a function of figuring out ways that work by partnering, in my opinion. I mean, I want Bill to succeed in the worst way. Number one, he's a good guy and he's got a great model. But people all say they want to shop locally, but the reality is they want things that suit their needs and they need a large selection. And what we're finding is what people say and what they do are two different things. So uh, for this to work, it's got to scale, in my opinion. People said if I asked you 10 years ago, would you ever put your personal information online for people to comment on? You'd say, no way. And that's Facebook and their monstrous model. But people who say they'll want to shop local, the reality is we have to drive value, whether it's time or price or selection. But there's a a very small group of people who really just want to support local, but we have to compete, almost like guerrilla warfare on a smaller level where it makes sense and the consumers want to find us.
Thanks,
Well, that's
Adam.
yeah, absolutely, Adam. And great to see you. And I owe you a phone call.
I look forward to it.
Um,
Eric, did you have a quick question?
I do, yeah. And I can see in the chat, I think this Flora was touching on this with her questions as well. So I'm in Milwaukee. As you expand, I'm certain that's part of your plans. How do you handle the delivery at this point? What's your, I guess, strategy for handling package deliveries?
right. What we found, and it's interesting to have Adam here because that's the nut that he's probably more tested out more than I have. But what we found that works really well for us at the moment is we have very at the moment, we have a very small area, Chittenden County, that we deliver in. And we manage the routing of those deliveries. And I think this is where Adam and I are going at it from kind of two different attempts. We have right now a retired woman, Jean, who is doing much of our delivery, and we have two others who are doing deliveries. But right now, I can send Jean a route, and what I'm doing, I have a little dashboard where I can put together orders to see what's the most efficient and see if I can get to profitability for a route for Gene. And so that's, we would start in Milwaukee with a small area, and then we want to find other genes that will cover particular areas. I don't know Milwaukee enough, but other neighborhoods around, so that that those items, Gene might pick up in downtown Burlington and then leave the items at one store, for the driver that covers from that store out to Essex and Jericho, would come by that store, pick up their items from that store as well as this bag that Gene has left, and keep delivering in that neighborhood. It's all about clustering. It's all about density. It's really that's the challenge. But if our thought is to build the infrastructure that can be dropped into any community.
And Bill, you might have said this, but I know a couple of questions are connected to this. Right now, you're focused on Burlington, but you have expanded to Vermont for non-delivery. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. We have a system. Again, all of these are tests. If we have more than one shop, our average order has 2.4 shops involved. So if we have that, then it's cost effective for us to do the same pickup because we're in the shop. We might be in a shop and pick up 5 items from them. So one of those items might combine with another shop, and then right now I've been packing and shipping, but that's definitely as a test. But that's definitely something, a retired person in their home or a high school kid after school can make a couple bucks packing and shipping, packing and labeling, and then we pick back up and take to shipping for
Just
Vermont.
if I can follow up on my question for a second, would it make, just thinking again of like the logistics of the expansion, would it also make sense to become maybe hyper focused on a particular product category as you expand so that even like the shipping and delivery could become a little easier? Like just an example would be if it was, we're going to focus on local books and local bookshops first. And then as you start to get traction there, then add the next product category. And then as it grows, it gets easier to add more and more. Is that something that's been considered or tried?
Well, that's something we've certainly looked at, and that's something that's how Amazon started. But I think now we have to look at what the consumer is trained to do. I mean, now they go to their phone, they think of anything, and they're like, "Oh, I need beer glasses," and that's what they want to order. So, all of our customer research is they want access to everything. So, yeah, and I think that, what we're focusing on is the clusters of shops, which we have in Burlington downtown, and then there's some in Williston. Um, and then we're looking at shops that are in our delivery areas. So I don't think we can do just one category. That's a long answer to that one question. Barbara.
On that same vein, did you start out with no delivery? Just like, here's some shops that are close to you, it's pickup only or something? Or like, because I mean, I'm in a really small town. Lafayette, Colorado is pretty small. I mean, Boulder's
Yeah.
bigger, but still not many bookshops.
Yep.
But I mean, lots of stores. But we've always thought we could start selling stuff on our website if it was pickup only, because we just don't have the capacity to do shipping in any way.
Right.
But is that something that you guys started with at all or would consider in an area?
No, and I know your area somewhat.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and so for that as an example, I mean, Boulder is where there's a lot of shops, and and for us, it's kind of the ideal place from a delivery from all different standpoints. But and then so Lafayette is how far is it? Like, is it 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes from Boulder?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just east.
So, so, and we've got things like that in Vermont. Um, and so we would, we're experimenting with all different sorts of things. Do we go to Lafayette every other day? It's all about, clustering and density. Are there people that would be going from Lafayette to Boulder periodically, and are they interested in being a transfer person? So there are all sorts of things that we're experimenting with right now. We don't have something for you at this instant. We have an area that for some reason, we're getting a ton of orders from Jericho and Underhill, which are kind of 20 minutes from Burlington, and we let them pile up for a few days and then make a run. Um, and those people understand that we're doing that, and they're excited to be. It's two things. They're excited to have access to Burlington items, and they're excited to not drive into Burlington. Um, which I imagine for you going in Boulder is kind of like, oh, geez. Um, but and we want to do the other thing. We do have a maple syrup person that's in Underhill, and they live in Underhill. They're actually the business is in Johnson, but for a while we were picking up from them uh, and bringing that into the Burlington market. So we see that pickups and deliveries are linked, and that's what's for us. It's always clustering those whatever it is, pickup or delivery, and returns, and looking at return logistics and all sorts of different things that people do. What else?
Keep having questions too. Is there any thought to, and maybe this is part of the reason you're on this call, to leverage small or local business alliances of different types where it could almost be like a white labeled product service in a sense, so that that local business alliance tries to get as many of their businesses and business members to commit to this, and it could even be like powered by Myti or whatever that may be. And there's some percentage that goes to that business alliance for setting up this, and with each purchase, maybe a little small percentage goes to the business alliance.
Yeah. I mean, that's our dream is, we keep talking about distributed power, and we, you know, we are not building another Amazon. We are interested in, can we build this infrastructure and support our small team? Yes. Can we then take it to other communities? Because each community has its own culture, its own mix of shops, its own passion for what's important. Um, and that's for us, that's the way to expand is creating those partnerships and finding, who are the people that are passionate about their local economy? Who are the people who see that the billionaires have taken away or are trying to take away our power, and who will advocate for this kind of thing? Um, and so one of my questions at the end is like, are there communities out there? Are you, Madison, Wisconsin, do you have the connections that we could come to Madison and set up? Because we're close to having infrastructure built that we could plop down, and are we, we're not trying to glorify ourselves. I think Myti, the brand name, it would be fun to keep that somewhere so that other communities can know that that exists. But we are not trying to build a big building and put our names on it. That's supposed to be a joke.
Bill, can you talk a little bit about how it works for the business? Are they paying a fee in order to make this all happen for you?
Yep. Yep. That's great. So, Myti.com, there's no fee to be on Myti.com. Right now, we charge 13%, and that includes the credit card processing. Um, as a sidebar, everything we're doing, we're looking at what can we do where collectively we can do better. So credit card processing, those companies are basically taxing people 3% on every order. And if we can get a big enough volume, then that take starts to go down. And then so collectively we would all be paying a lower credit card processing fee. So um, so 13% to be on. Right now for 3-day delivery, we charge $4.99. For next day delivery, we charge $9.99. We have shops that pass that through to the customer, and we have shops that absorb that and see the need to have, free shipping. Um, the we're experimenting now with a pack and ship thing where, again, collectively, if we have 2 shops that are involved, each shop might pay $9 toward a pack and ship, and then the items can be put together and shipped out. And again, then we keep that packing and shipping money in the local community because right now we're using retired folks or high school kids to do that kind of thing. Again, that's in a very experimental mode at the moment.
And I did see a question from iPhone. I like your name. Just wondering, alluding to who owns Myti, and you are an independent for-profit business?
We are an independent for-profit business. Well, yeah. To be
Well,
clear,
yeah.
yes, we are.
Striving for that.
Right. We would love to be profitable. We have not been profitable.
Okay.
We are getting ready to do a raise. So we're looking for social impact investors. We
Okay.
have everybody who's put money into Mighty so far has been people who believe in our mission. We are not VC funded. So we are not being pressured by somebody who's interested in instant profit or power and all that kind of stuff. Um, and we will continue to do that. I've turned down millions of dollars from people who see us as something that they can profit from and gain economic power through. Does that answer?
And in terms, yeah, and in terms of being, not turning a profit yet, you started in 2000, correct?
2020.
2020. Sorry. I just completely wiped out 25 years in my head. That's how I'm feeling right now. Yes, but thank you. So, just the fact that you're still a tech startup and you're taking on this ambitious mission, I would be shocked if you actually you're revenue positive right now. Do you have an idea for when you'd hit that mark?
Yeah, I mean, we to hit that, we need to go to other communities.
Okay.
I don't think we can do that now in Vermont.
Yep. Yep. And alluding to that, like, do you have have you looked into like cooperative models or anything like that?
I
Great.
mean, that was a debate this morning, not a debate, a
Okay.
conversation this morning is like, okay, as we go to the next community, how do we do that? And that's again, all I can say right now is we're very interested in distributed economic power. And
Great.
so is it a co-op? Is it I don't know. They're digital
Right.
franchises. They're all different sorts of things that mechanisms. But I'm not looking to dominate the world or uh, anything like that.
Great. Did you have any more like just basic information you want to cover, or I can more broadly open it up to everybody's questions? I've been
Yeah,
looking at the
looking at the time.
chat.
Let me just look at my notes and see. I mean, one thing with the Lafayette conversation, one thing in Vermont, we have an area called the Northeast Kingdom. It is a very low population, very spread out area, and
Mhm.
at the moment economically disadvantaged. And part of that is that it's so remote. So we're very interested in probably looking at grant money because we have ideas on how to bring the Northeast Kingdom into the Vermont economy.
Mm,
Right now, it's so isolated, and there are people out there who are especially making things and building things and want to be part of an economy, but they're isolated. So, as I was saying, talking about Lafayette, Colorado, can we, we've thought about starting to deliver, say, to a general store. In Calais, Vermont, there's a general store that's kind of a community center. So once a week, are we going to Calais and doing deliveries? Um, and then beyond that, we can also, if there are people making things or have a shop that wants to be on Mighty, then that can be a time to pick up in Calais also. Um, so we have all that's also kind of a not a sidebar conversation, but it's a very different conversation than going to Boulder, Colorado or Madison, Wisconsin. How do we serve those communities that are isolated? That is on our mind.
that's fantastic. And I just wanted to, I giggled because I saw Wendy said, "Oh my goodness, I live in the NEK," or so she said, no one ever talks about it. So she wanted to
Right.
make sure to thank you. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Another kind of, just layer on more and more things. But in terms of environmental sustainability, I know that you had an electric car. I'm sure you don't have a fleet of them for everybody, but how are you tackling that whole fact?
That's yeah. So our deliveries are still in electric vehicle. We currently own the vehicle. And that's obviously that's a challenge we need to understand as we grow. And I have a bunch of different ideas, and it's kind of like the AWS conversation. There's probably a stepping stone we have to go on before we get to a point where we can have every package delivered by an electric vehicle. Um,
Absolutely.
one of the big things we're doing is I should have brought a bag or something like that, but because because the chain of custody, if you want to call it that, from the store to the person's house, is not through a UPS truck. We don't have to package so that things are thrown across a UPS truck. So often we have the bag from the store, like Homeport. Everybody puts their stuff in a bag and puts the order number on it. And then we're picking that up and we'll just take Wild Lark's bag and put it inside a Homeport's bag if it's for the same order. And then about 50% of the time someone's home. So we ring the bell, someone's home. Part of the time we're putting it someplace safe. But we're not boxing it, coating it with plastic tape, all those kinds of things.
Absolutely. And Flora has been patiently adding her question to the chat, but was hoping to jump on and ask her question.
Go ahead.
Flora?
Thank you. My question has to do with how these products get somehow organized and aggregated for the shoppers. Because I would imagine there could be times when the same shop might have the same product in there. Who's taking the picture? Who's describing the product? I might call a light bulb something that's like hardware and someone else would call it lighting. And how do you make it so that a customer can go in and look for things and see like an organized set of that, even though it's coming from a lot of different stores?
So that is our challenge. That is something that we're constantly working on. We actually built when we started an AI system before there was a lot of talk about AI that was categorizing things for us. Now we use Shopify as our front end. So when I was showing you, that was Shopify. Shopify now has built into it a system that will go through and categorize. Well, no, let me back up. It has a system so that when you go to a product, it will suggest a category and you can click on that. And then it'll suggest meta fields and you can click on that. So I built an extension that we run every day that basically opens up the most recent products, checks for that suggestion, clicks on that button, and does that over and over and over and over. You're muted or something.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. That's you as the administrators of Myti doing that. It's not the individual shopkeepers going in and doing that.
Correct. I mean, the our philosophy is all the shopkeepers want to be doing whatever they're passionate about. And and we like I built that extension and we can use it across all of our shops. So each individual shop doesn't have to do that. Um, so we're constantly looking at what can we do at scale that that allows collectively people to have access to something they couldn't get otherwise. And delivery is the simple, you know, for Phoenix Bookstore to deliver a book to Jericho, they couldn't do it. They couldn't afford to do it. But because because we're picking up 25 other items when we're picking up for Phoenix and delivering to Jericho 10 or 15 orders, we can do it together. The whole thing about Myti, you know, the reason we're called Myti is because together we're mighty is the whole. And I can go into our logo and our dots and our circles and all that kind of stuff. That's all about together. The only way we can do this is together.
What's the size of your staff, like your paid staff, Bill?
There are two of us, Jeffrey and myself.
Wow. Impressive.
We have some interns. Yeah, we have a couple contractors, but it's Jeffrey and myself.
And I did see that Jen, thank you for letting us know you had to jump off to go to a next meeting. But those of you who do have to jump off before the end for the top of the hour, I will be sending a link to you all. I'll also be looking for links to send you, and you can respond to me if you have any questions that weren't addressed. But keep going, Bill.
Yeah. Well, I just saw, I'm not good at looking at the chat, but I just saw something pop up about nonprofits and wish lists and all that. Um, uh, so we have a wish list. You know, this is again, it's something that's built into Shopify. There's a wish list thing. And we haven't had the bandwidth to go out to the nonprofits, but we're very friendly. My family is very involved with music and the youth orchestra and all that kind of stuff. And then also have lots of connections through Community for Online or Community for Temporary Shelter and those organizations. Jeffrey's connected to a whole bunch of other organizations. So on our list is to encourage them to use Myti gift cards, Myti wish list, rather than a lot, you know, like UVM gives Amazon gift cards. It's like, so, you know, so we're working on that.
I'm the one that asked the question. I'm Dawn.
Yes. Hi, Dawn.
In New York. It's been my frustration because we get asked a lot about, can you donate to our local nonprofit? Can I get a gift card? And we often find that sometimes people don't actually come and use this or come into the retail store on a regular basis. And I know that's a point of frustration for many people. But having been on a board of a local organization, there are always like these drives that they do, the pajama drive, the school supplies, and I've often found that those drives are pointed to specific websites, big box stores, and if there was a way to fulfill them locally, that's been something I've been sort of wondering and trying to puzzle out over the last several years. It's I feel like it's a possible way for our local shop to like capitalize on sales that they would not have gotten before
Absolutely.
because obviously there's always the Amazon wish list that happens. And if there was a way to collectively do that. So that's really where I'm sort of pointing to.
Hmm. I mean,
Um,
the technology exists to do all of that. And, I just think like we can create a collection, it's called. And so if a particular organization wanted these particular items, we put them in a collection and then point people to those. Beyond actually the wish list mechanism. So
right, right.
it's just
Um,
it's just time and money, and
yeah.
it's amazing what's possible.
That's great. And I just wanted to amplify Carol's message. Love to see this dedication. Thanks, Carol, for that. I know that there are some more questions there. I just want to acknowledge that we have about 10 minutes. So if there are people who haven't asked a question and want to, either raise your hand, come offline, so I'll see you. If not, we'll just keep taking those questions in the chat as they come. Barbara, you had another question, correct?
Yeah, I was just in the chat just asking more if I can you explain a little bit more about the well maybe is it a thing that exists right now, this general store that you mentioned, like that some rural areas just have a place, a community place where people can pick up their purchases, or I didn't quite understand the details of that.
We don't have that implemented.
Oh,
That's a sketch. It's totally
idea.
it's totally I mean all the physical stuff is in place. The missing link is how we communicate that to the customers, and how if somebody in Calais shops, how do they know at the checkout, how do they know that that's where they go? So we just, it's just bandwidth is what's limiting us from doing those things. Um,
Okay. Because yeah, our bookstore tends to be that place. Not officially in any way, but I mean, people literally come in and drop off a shoe and say, when Jen comes in for her coffee, please give her her shoe back, or, you know,
yeah,
but that just seems like a natural fit if you can communicate that in the checkout of this is where you have to go, there's going to be no delivery kind
right.
of thing. Yeah.
Well, we've done that on the behind the scenes with the delivery. We will collect in Burlington, and then we use these IKEA bags, and we'll have a bag full of stuff that's going to Essex, Jericho, Underhill, and we'll leave it at Lenny's, which is in Williston. And then Laura, is coming in, and she'll stop at Lenny's after the fact, pick up that bag. There'll be a couple Lenny's things there for her also on that route, and then she runs that route. So that's basically what that same mechanism is what we would use in a general store drop off. We would just have to communicate that, come up with a proper way to communicate that to the customer.
Hmm. So it sounds like a lot of social capital building.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking of like time exchanges being weaved into just another thing to lather on there, Bill. I know that Kevin had a bunch of other really great questions. They might be more for you 5 years from now, but I just wanted to acknowledge that he's asked lots of great questions. He was asking about labor protections for vendors. For example, if a local business relies heavily on Myti for revenue, which would probably fantastic. Does the platform have power to unilaterally change terms that affect vendor livelihoods?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Haven't crossed that bridge yet. We'd love to be a place where we were the dominant source of funds for them. Um, yeah, I guess both Jeffrey and I are committed to, again, decentralized power, and when we get to that bridge, I think that commitment would influence how we handle that. Can't tell
Yeah.
how we do that at the moment. I would love
Absolutely.
to have that problem. Oh my gosh.
So Jeff, cut right to the chase again. What's the first step to bringing Mighty to my community? Are you at the point now where you can set up in another community with a local person or liaison?
We are that close to being able to go to another community. I think right now, what's between us and that, we need to have what we're calling a full stack builder, technical person. Jeffrey and I have been doing all the technical end, and we need to have somebody else who's doing that so that Jeffrey and I can be out there in the field. We would want to go to Madison, we want to go to Boulder, and it's this is Mighty is all about personal connection. So we would want to be there, find the person in those communities who would champion this and sees how valuable it is to have economic power in that community. And so yes, so money is always an issue for us to keep us building, and then we would like to find this person who's a committed technical engineer, design, product person. We're calling full stack builder. Some people in the tech world would know what that is.
Mhm. Great. Well, I'm going to leave it at that just to acknowledge that some people have to jump off, but I just wanted to say again, we're going to send you a link to this recording tomorrow morning. Stay tuned for future events at amoeba.net/events. Thank you, Bill, for joining us and giving us a crash course on all the things you're thinking about at Mighty. It's a mighty big undertaking, so thank you for doing it. And thank you all of you spending an hour of your very busy time. I know I missed some questions. Please make sure that I get them answered for you. And thank you all for being here again, and have a great rest of your week.
And my email, if anybody wants to reach out with ideas, suggestions, all that other questions, it's easy. Bill@mighty.com, MYTI.
Great. And I'll send that along in the follow-up email as well.
Great.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Bill. That was wonderful.
It was great. Enjoyed it always.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you
Thanks for everything you do.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And I'll definitely follow up on a couple of things you talked about, and just thinking about, as Amoeba's evolving, how we can, work with you and others more to solve this or make this happen quicker.
Yeah. Well, there's urgency. The time is now.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.